Hey everyone, James Niggemeyer here. Thank you for tuning back into my YouTube channel. I am sitting in my boat and I'm getting some rods and things prepared for some guide trips that I have the next few days out on Lake Fork, my home lake. It made me think of a technique that I really like. It's one of my favorite ways to catch them this time of year. It doesn't always work, but when it's on, it's just a lot of fun. What I found is this is one of the toughest times of year throughout the South, from like Kentucky all the way over to Maryland, all the way down to the Gulf of Mexico, just all the southern states. This becomes a really tough time of year. There's a few things that are happening that make it that way. Number one, the water temperature is probably at its hottest point. Maybe it's started to crest and maybe it's starting to drop a little bit. As well as water temperatures being hot, you have a lack of oxygen in the water column, and sometimes the fish that are on those offshore spots in deeper water, the bait fish have started to elevate in the water column, getting shallower or starting to suspend, which makes them unpredictable as where they're going to be and how to present a bait to them. So sometimes one of the better ways to catch them is to move shallow, where there's actually shad or bait fish that have migrated into the shallower waters. And the early part of the fall migration has begun with the shad or the bait fish that have moved up into the shallow waters. And this particular technique is like, again, it's one of my favorite ones. And over the years, I've had some great days on the water, and I've seen some really big fish come for them. And that's a soft plastic toad. So I want to go over rod, reel, line, hook, and the soft plastic toad. Not a hollow body double hook type floating frog, but a soft plastic one like this. This is a Strike King Super Toad. And then there's also a Strike King Rage Toad, and you got to unlock those legs, and it catches a lot of water, makes a lot of disturbance. This is a little more subtle than this one. And sometimes they want something with a little bit more racket, and sometimes they want something a little bit more subtle. That's the package that the Rage Toad comes out of, and inside they got a little clam deal. But these types of baits are awesome because they're super versatile. Number one, in that you can fish them through really clear water, you can fish them through weedy areas, lily pads, wood, anything like that in really shallow water. You throw it up there and just start reeling it back over those shallow areas where there's bait fish. And the other thing that makes it great is you can cover a lot of water with it. You just throw it out there. Now this guy's gonna sink. As soon as it hits the water, it's gonna sink. It does not float. And then when you start to reel, turn the handle, this thing will plane out, and the little tails will start to kick, and it's like a little motorboat. Bass just love these types of baits. And the cool thing about it is sometimes you'll see some amazing strikes where they'll explode on it, or a V-wake will come up behind it and they'll just grab it, and that just makes it so much fun, just because you can see those visual strikes. So the hook that I'm using, I use either a 5/0 or a 6/0 Owner twist lock. These hooks are great. They're XXX strong, so they're nice and strong, so it works well with the braid, doesn't open up. And then I thread that on to that little cord. I'll just back that up a little bit. Number one, I'll thread that on, just put that center pin into the very nose of the bait, and that'll keep it centered. And then you just twist it on there with the little corkscrew portion. Just keep twisting it on there. Get it nice and flush up against the hook, base of the eye of the hook. And then I kind of measure where I think is going to be, the hook's going to come out, where it's going to go in and where it's going to come out. I like to get it nice and straight, and I like to kind of poke it through just like that. Just poke it through like that, and nice and straight like this. And this thing is just really a fun way to catch them. I like to throw it on a 7'4" heavy. It's a Team Lew's Custom Pro rod. It's called their Magnum Pitch and Stick, 7'4" heavy. I'll use this rod for a lot of different things. I like 50-pound test braid. I've got Strike King braid on here, tour grade braid, and a Lew's Hyper Mag. I like this because it's got a 7:5 gear ratio, so I'm not just burning it to turning the handle really fast to try to get it up on top. I can kind of slow down because this 7:5 gear ratio keeps it up and moving pretty quick. I like the braid because sometimes you're around pads, and then also I like braid anytime I'm throwing topwater. And it is a topwater bait, even though it does sink. But once you get it up and running, that thing is up on top, and it's just those two little legs are just kicking around. And so that's definitely the setup, and that's the setup that I'll use with this toad. This toad's got a little crease right here, kind of shows you where to put the hook in and then where it should come out on the backside. One of the things that's great about it is the fish really don't get a good look at it, especially around pads and grass. One of the things that happens this time of year is the vegetation has had all year to grow, from the early part of the spring right through the summer, and the pads are probably at their thickest. The grass is probably topped out at a lot of places. This bait goes right over top of it, completely weedless. It just, it just comes through there because it's pointed like that and the hook is covered. It can just go right through those grasses and all that vegetation. You can be really efficient at covering water. So what I like to do, the reason I like a 7'4" is because I can really throw it way out there. Just make a bomb cast, and the Hyper Mag allows me to do that. Throws effortlessly way out there. As soon as it hits the water, I start cranking because I want that thing to plane up and get up on top of the water and start to kick its little legs. I keep my rod tip up, and it'll just be kind of like a buzzbait. Blup, 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 and those little tails are just kicking back there, and I'm just reeling it along. I don't stop it. I don't chug it. I don't do anything. It's really just a cast and wind type retrieve. Keeps it up high on the water column. Keep moving it along. Keep the trolling motor at maybe 50% or even higher if you feel comfortable with that, and just keep going, watching out for stumps because Lake Fork's filled with stumps. And I'll just keep going through the pads, through the grass, through wherever, because the thing that I'm looking for is the bait fish. When those bait fish are up there in the shallow waters, that's what's going to keep those fish up there. And sometimes you even have brim beds around the full moon. So this kind of a green pumpkin with a pearl belly kind of looks like a little bit of a bluegill. And so it's kind of a two-pronged approach. Not only is it bait fish, bass that are pursuing bait fish, but also brim or bluegill beds. And sometimes the bluegill are just hanging out up there. And so this will get bites from fish that are targeting both things. In this time of year, the water has been dropping, a lot of evaporation, a lot of water's been flowing out of the dam and different things like that. So the water level's dropping. But on top of the fact that the water level's dropping, we've had actually a lot of rain recently, but typically this time of year, there's not a lot of rain in the late summer, and the water's about as clear as it's going to be. So with these guys, you can really buzz them, and the fish don't get a good look at them, and you can draw a reaction strike from them. It's pretty awesome. So I'll be reeling it along, and the fish will come up and just grab it like that. If he's coming at me, I want to take up that slack. If he's coming faster than the speed of my retrieve, take up that slack till it kind of just the rod starts to load a little, just a little bit. I'll just whack, just hit him, and just keep him coming. Because you have a XXX strong hook and a lot of plastic, you want to set the hook really nice and hard. You want to get that hook buried, and then that's just the beginning. I'm going to apply a lot of pressure and keep him coming, keep him away from those pads, those logs, those stumps, those lily pads, the grass, all those types of things. Keep them coming to the boat. The heavy action helps me to keep control of the fish, even bigger ones. I've seen guide clients catch them all the way up to 7 pounds on these things. So they will get big bites, and it's just a lot of fun. So that's pretty much my setup, how I fish them. I like to focus on pockets, and I like to focus on flats. Anywhere that I think the bait fish might be congregated, and even the backs of creeks, you'll find some bait fish back there. But if you're finding bait fish in that shallow zone, a lot of times you're going to rely on your electronics to find those areas that have a lot of bait fish. Sometimes you'll see them up on top of the water flipping and different things like that. Sometimes you'll see birds lining on the bank, like egrets and herons up on the bank. And that's a good indication that, yeah, there's some bait fish activity and bait fish life out there. And if there is bait fish back there, it's almost a guarantee that there's actually going to be bass back there. That's my setup. That's one of my favorite ways to catch them this time of year. And one of the reasons I really like it is because I can cover so much water, because there's a lot of area that doesn't have any bait fish, followed by small areas that do have a lot of bait fish. And that's what we're looking for, areas where the fish are congregated with the bait, and that's the activity zone, whether it's shad or bluegill or whatever. So give a rage toad or a super toad a shot next time you're out there on the water this time of year, or anytime the fish might be located in shallow water. I feel like this will catch you some big fish. I know it has for me. That's it for now. The toad for transition summer to fall bass. If you guys like this video, give me a thumbs up. Drop me a comment if you have some stories you want to share with me about the toad, that you've had some great experiences or some things that have worked for you. Share it with somebody that you feel like might like this video or get something out of it. I appreciate you guys watching this video, and until next time, good fishing.